Before our market analyst joins us, let's get a quick check of the monthly cattle on feed report. Cattle and calves on feed for feedlots with a capacity of 1,000 or more head totaled 11.7 million on November 1st. That's up 3% from a year ago. Feedlot placements totaled 2.25 million head, 6% below last year's numbers. Other disappearance totaled 69,000, which is down 5% from a year ago. Dr. Lee Schulz is a livestock economist with Iowa State University. He joins us now to give his take on the latest cattle on feed report, hogs, dairy, and a whole lot more. Lee, thanks for being here today.
Good to be here.
And starting off, the latest cattle on feed report came out just before Thanksgiving. What were some of the numbers that stuck out to you?
Well, I think overall you could view this report as a bit bullish when you look at especially the placement numbers. Now, the placement pre-report expectation was a very large range, ranged all the way from 94% of a year ago all the way up to 104%. It came in very much at that low end, 6.1% below year-ago levels. That placement number is a number we're really watching because that is the pipeline supplies of cattle as we get into the new year, especially when you look at February, March, April time period. You did see the futures react to that lower than expected number. And so I think when you look at overall, the cattle market really needed a bit of bullish news, and it got it as far as this cattle on feed report.
And looking like a nice harvest this year, are we seeing that carry over to feed costs?
Yes, feed costs are lower, but I think there is still a bit of uncertainty because of the delayed harvest, because of some potential quality issues out there. I think we won't really know the implications of this latest harvest on feed prices until we get several months into the future. What I am reminding producers is we have low feed costs. I think that presents an opportunity to provide a bit of certainty as we look at margins into the next year, and use of risk management, be it forward contracts or futures options, could help provide some certainty because these feed costs are relatively low.
And you mentioned 2019. I guess you would be of the opinion that you think the cattle market and the hog market is going to continue to grow?
I think it's all but certain. When you look at the inventory levels, record large inventories of hogs, really large inventories of cattle, at least in the current cattle cycle. And so that means increased production, at least for the next year or two. And so far, that production has been absorbed, both from the domestic market and the export market. But I think it's really the crux of it is going forward. Expectations, I think, of red meat and poultry production being up almost 6% in the next 5 years, but per capita consumption is likely to remain pretty flat. So what that means is we're going to rely on the export markets to absorb that additional production. If they continue to absorb that additional production, I think we have the potential to maintain prices where they're at, even though we're having higher supplies.
And I want to get your take on this. Representatives from the Iowa Pork Producers Association had some meetings in Japan and South Korea a couple weeks back, so probably as important as ever to make sure retailers over there are happy with U.S. pork, wouldn't you say?
That is the case, and I had the tremendous opportunity to join the Iowa pork producers on that meat trade mission. And the importance of those missions is really to give a face or a name to the U.S. product and really to nurture those relationships that we've built over time. It doesn't happen overnight that South Korea is our fourth largest export market for pork, likely to be number 3 pretty quickly, and beef is the second largest market. Again, that doesn't happen overnight. It's part of these trade missions. It's part of trade policy that enables us to get that market access, and then probably more importantly is maintain that market access and continue to grow it.
What was your favorite part of the trip?
I think my favorite part of the trip is really twofold. It's one, to travel with the Iowa pork producers and really get to understand their operations and really what drives them in production, but then also see the other side of the market. A lot of times as analysts, we look at the numbers and understand the numbers from a year-over-year standpoint, but really don't maybe get why we've seen such increases in exports or why our market share has grown. And when you really get in a country and understand understand their culture and understand why they view U.S. beef and pork as such a important part of their market. That's why I think it really helps understand where we could potentially go as far as growing that market access.
Nice. That sounds like it was a lot of fun. As we wrap up, I wanted to get your take on the dairy industry and if you see any optimism as far as that goes for 2019.
I see a bit of optimism in that market. I think it is twofold. One, it's from a supply side situation. We are seeing lower cow numbers. You've seen increased dairy cow culling. You've seen fewer replacement heifers being held. And so I think that's going to start to curb the increased production we've seen as of late. But also with that, we've seen increased productivity as far as milk per cow. So it's not going to be as quick as maybe we anticipate, even though we're losing a few cow numbers. The strength in the market has really been the demand situation. We've really maintained demand, especially export market. They've gone at lower prices, but we're still continuing to push that additional production on the highest valued market. I see prices increasing about 5% potentially in 2019. I think one of the positives in the market is we're also seeing low feed costs. And so while we likely need higher and higher milk prices to see more profitable margins, at least we're controlling the cost side of things. And I think that provides a bit of optimism, at least in the short run.
All right. We always enjoy you being on the show, Lee. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
Next week, we'll be joined by Jeff Peterson from Heartland Farm Partners. We're going to have a wrap-up of the top ag stories for 2018, and we'll see if we can guess what 2019 has in store.